Okay, hi everyone. We're back with another video. I am doing lots of little videos to break it down, and I'm back with reinforcements. So, last time we talked about cylinders, cubes, and their rectangular prisms. My my instincts were correct. So I'm just gonna briefly touch again on cylinders, which I spelled wrong. Those of you in kindergarten are probably like, that's a really big word, Miss Jenny. And it is. I remember when I was in kindergarten that we were working on, A is B is B, those kinds of things. But it's an I, not an A. So, cylinder. I had to correct it for my own sanity. Okay, so say that we took rectangle that was rounded on top and bottom, so we added in curves, and then we decided to do a cup, so we have those curves, we have the openings, and then we took it even further, and we were like, this is a glass cup, so we could see the orange juice on the inside, right? So if you were to color it orange, shabam, orange juice. Okay, now, just to touch again on cubes, I'm just going to use my tape. I probably should stop putting all these holes in my wall. It's okay, I'll fix it later. Okay. So, alright, so I talked about how you can take the two squares next to each other and then connect the corners to make a cube or like a rectangular shape to give it more dimension. But most of the things we're going to be looking at are going to be solid, right? So you're not going to see some of the sides. So to give you a better idea of what that would look like, I will color with 3 different colors so that you can see which sides we're talking about, right? So if I have this guy right here, I would have either, I wouldn't be able to see this back one unless I was looking up at it. You can kind of change the angles, but that's kind of complicated, so we're just going to keep it simple. Alright, so I would see this side, that line would disappear. I would see this side, and so that little line right there would disappear. And I would see this whole side right here. And so if it was solid, that line, those 3 lines actually, those would disappear. Okay. So, now we are going to have fun. We are going to talk about triangles. And then we will talk about circles. Okay, so there's 2 main ways I can think of that you would find a 3D triangle in real life rather than just the 2-dimensional that you would draw on a paper or see on like a computer screen. Okay, different than the shape itself. And those 2 ways would be something like this, where this is one of my son's magnets. It's a triangle, but it's more rectangular on the sides. Still has depth, still is 3D. Or I have something like this, which is more of a cone shape. It doesn't have the pointy top. So this shape, I know it's kind of small. There we go. This shape is more of a triangular shape on this side, but then when you turn it this way, you have a circle, right? Kind of like rectangle, circle. So it's like 2 in 1. So tricky. So I will show you those 2 ways to draw them. Okay, so say I have a triangle. It would be a lot like how we do our squares and our rectangles, where I would draw another one on one of the sides. It's kind of close, but that's okay. And then I would connect my corners. So let me see if I can, this would be a rectangular prism. So I'll do one that's a little longer so you guys can see it better. So I'll go down here. So say I have a triangle and I wanted to do a longer one to give it more depth and dimension. So it would be the same thing. So I would connect those corners, and those corners. So I know I said this one was a bit more complicated and it is, but if you were to ignore this top part, right, this would be like a triangular prism. Okay. The other one would be a cone shape. So that would be a bit more like the cylinder. Okay, so I would have my triangle, but because it's rounded on the bottom, instead of having that straight line, what I would do is add in a little bit of a curve downwards. And that takes it from just triangle to cone. Right, so if you had like a construction site, that would be a cone shape, and we don't see that opening unless we're looking down at the cone, right? So we'll do both for like ice cream cones. Okay, so if you had like a construction site and you had a cone sitting out, that would be how you would draw it. Or you could do a cone on top of a rectangle. I went about that the wrong way. There we go. Not quite like that because it wouldn't be right on the end. But kind of like that. And that's taking it even further and further. For the little ones, I would focus more on this. Okay. So we have cones. And we have triangular prisms, all from triangles. Okay. Oh, right, our ice cream cone. I didn't leave enough space. Let me get another paper. We're just going to be looking down at the opening, like for an ice cream cone, again, it would be a lot like the cylinder where you're doing like a cup, but instead of being the pointed side up for like a construction cone, the pointed side would be down, right? So I would have almost like a V shape, and instead of having that straight edge for my triangle, I would have a curve going down, but also a curve going up for the opening, right? So let's do that again without the extra lines. So I have my V, curve down and up for my squished circle, like almost kind of like an oval. All right. But if it's full of ice cream, you don't really see the opening anymore because it's nice and full of ice cream, which is the best part of ice cream cones, right? Or, it would even, no, I'm not going to go there. Too complicated. Okay. So, for those of you who are in some of the bigger grades, for some of the bigger kids, you could play around and experiment with more complex things, right? Like cups and the triangular prisms. And then for the younger kids, I would focus more on just the simple cylinder, like cube or box shape cone. Okay. And then next, we're going to talk about circles. I actually think I might be able to fit circles on this one. So earlier I had said that circles are spheres, and for the little ones, this is a good starting point for circles. Sometimes spheres can get a little complicated, but not all circles are spheres, right? So I felt the need, I just gotta say, like stuff like plates. This is a circle, it's not a sphere, right? It's not round like a ball. It has that circular shape, and then on the sides, a bit more rectangular, so it's almost kind of like a cylinder, but this one, the sides of the plate come up pretty far, right? You have other plates where they don't come up that far. We're not really going to be drawing this, but just from your knowledge about cylinders, it would basically be like a cup, but really small. Instead, we're going to focus more on circles. Okay. So, it won't be a perfect circle. Good enough. Okay, so say I have my circle. The thing about circles is the only way to really make them into a sphere shape, like a ball, is to add in lighting or shading. Basically both, to show dimension. So, if you guys took that course from a couple weeks ago about shading, I kind of already started to talk about it, right? Where with, pencils or crayons or those kinds of things, the harder you press down, the more pressure you put, the darker it's going to be. And as you keep going and going and going, I start to do less and less pressure. I don't press as hard, I press really soft, and it gets lighter and lighter. So with a circle, to make it look more like a sphere, that's what I would do. There's not many other ways. I'll show you one other way. So, and I, instead of, going in and coloring it straight across, I do curved lines so that it follows the shape of my object. And we'll get to that in other classes, more for the older kids. Right, so if I were to go into my circle and do like a C, the letter C, nice and dark, so I press down harder, make it a little bit thicker right in here, almost kind of like a crescent moon, and the moon is that like sliver in the sky. Okay, and then as I go in further with my C, I make smaller and smaller C's, but I start to press down lighter and lighter. Okay, so that is one of the ways that you can make a circle look more like a sphere. Another way is, say you have something like an egg. It's supposed to be a circle. We're going to say that's an egg. Or we're going to say it's a bubble. Okay. Now, instead of going in and doing the shading, which especially if you're using something like markers, it can be harder to do, and it takes practice. You could always go in and just add in like a curved, almost like a comma, to make it look like there's light reflecting, and that will usually give enough of an idea that, oh, that's rounded, that's spherical, or 3D instead of 2D, right? So you could do it around one of the edges, kind of like a comma. And just having that little shape there starts to make it look like a bubble. Now I don't do it right in the middle, because then it doesn't quite look quite the same. It looks more like an eye. Not quite like that. I try and keep it in this area around the outside edges. Not right on the edge, not right on that line, not in the middle, but in this happy zone. We'll call that our happy zone. Okay? Or even if you don't want to do the like lighter and lighter and keep going and going, you could even just do that C, right? I kind of started to do it in this one where, use blue this time, that C shape, and just do it right along there, and that also helps make it look more like a sphere. Okay, this not so much. This is just to show you good spots to put those like commas to make it look more spherical. Okay, so that one's probably one of the harder ones to master. So my challenge for you guys, those of you who are in the younger grades, this will be the last video, And those of you who are in 4th, 5th, and 6th, I'll be doing another video that has a little bit more challenging things that you can consider when you're doing this. Totally optional. But my challenge for you is to find something in your classroom or at home and put it out in front of you. Really look at it and kind of hold it in your hands, move it around, and say, like, huh, this chapstick. I never really thought about it before, but this is a cylinder. How would I draw this? Or something like this box of crackers, right? This is more of a rectangle or square, bit of both, rectangular prism. Hold it in your hands, look at it, and think, how would I draw this? So pick an object and see if you can try and draw it. And if you can't, that's okay. It takes practice, all right? So be kind to yourself. Remember, it's a process. You have to practice and learn, and it's almost like, I don't know if you guys have heard of muscle memory, but building that muscle memory in your hand of doing something over and over with your hand until it starts to really get used to it. Okay? So, try it, see how it goes. Let me know. I have my Canvas page all set up. I would love for you guys to message me any questions or, oh, I love this, Miss Jenny, or this was way too hard, Miss Jenny. Your feedback and just hearing from you would be really nice because I miss you kids. All right, so have so much fun, and if you want, you can color it. You don't have to. Just, trying to get either a cone shape, a cylinder shape, this one, a square cube shape, or more of like a rectangular shape, a rectangular prism, like a book, something like that. And you can try drawing it without looking at something. And you can try the sphere if you want. Those ones are probably better for some of the bigger grades. But yeah, so try and draw it. You don't have to have it in front of you to draw it. I think it helps to, keep looking at it, and let me know how it goes. Happy drawing!